Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Rig It with the Coach on Monday here at Big Bite Baits. We're glad to be back. I know, Jordan, I'm glad to have you with me as always. I hope you had a nice Thanksgiving.
Absolutely.
I know I did. I think I gained about 10 pounds, and I got a treat of going to see Alabama play Auburn in the Iron Bowl Saturday. It was a pretty phenomenal game, and I just had a real good holiday. So I hope that all of you did too out there, and everything went your way. But it was really good for me.
That's
so
awesome.
I just probably ate too much, but it's all good, you know. First thing up today, I want to ask everybody about your questions. Please try to get them in early if you've got questions. We're having some technological problems. For some reason, questions aren't coming in like they need to. So if you get them in early, that way we have them already processed and be able to try to answer part of them anyway. So if you would, we appreciate that because we love having those questions. Today I was going to talk first of all about the locator hats. They're back in stock. I got an interesting story about this I found this morning, how this came about its name. I was told by a gentleman here in the office that the lines on the hat look like a depth finder ultrasound going down, and you use a big bite bait to catch a fish. So anyway, get your navigator hats. They're really nice. They're a Pacific brand hat. They've got a snap in the back, and they're structured, and they're really a lot like, basically the same type of hat as a Richardson that we have in some of our other hats. But if you'd like to get the locator hat, it is online. It is now available, so you better get them while you can because they won't last long, I can assure you. All right, today I thought we'd do something we've been getting lots of requests for, Jordan. I know that me and you talk about this all the time, and it seems like people are always calling and wanting to talk about jig trailers. I think and I can probably go over there in our warehouse and at least pull 20 different types of ways to rig a bait with a jig, with a trailer. So what we try to do is pick some things we thought would be what I would call mainstays, or maybe something that might be a little bit interesting. So that's kind of what we did today. So I'm just going to kind of start real quick and talk about some different types of baits, and then we'll do a couple of questions that we've got toward the end. The first jig trailer we'll talk about is on a swim jig, and we chose to go with a swim bait type style bait. Right here is a Pro Swimmer. You could use a suicide shad too if you'd like to. But this is real popular. I know like on the Elite Trail, a lot of the pros have gone to using this instead of like a crawl type bait. But you can also still use a crawl type bait on a swim jig, whatever fits your preference. And I can show you that as well. So this is one rig with a Pro Swimmer that works real good.
What size and color do you think?
That's a 3.8 Pro Swimmer. Of course, obviously I usually might match my trailer to the color. This is a white ice on a white, kind of a blue with a blue hue to it. So it makes a really nice application. I'll show that to you again. And then the other way to rig your swim jig, obviously, is with a crawl. And of course, this is a chartreuse and white swim jig, and I've got a green pumpkin swimming crawl on it. And the swimming crawl comes in like 20 colors, so you can kind of mix and match. But that's the old standby, the flapping action. So you guys that like a swim bait action, you can go this way. You guys that like the crawl type action, you can go this way. So that's two types of trailers to use on the swim jig. Now, throw you a little curve while we're on that subject. Another thing I found that works real good on a swim jig is our double tail grub. Works real well. I've had a lot of success fishing that behind the swim jig as well. So that's another option for you to try. Just a good old standard, what we call double tail grub. You can buy those out off the website. Something totally different that you don't see a lot of, okay? So next I went to a football jig. And obviously a football jig, normally you put some type of crawl behind it or a chunk behind it. And we do offer a chunk. I didn't pull an old school chunk, but I did pull a kamikaze crawl to put on a black and blue football head jig. Makes a real nice presentation. This particular bait has quite a bit of flapping action behind it and works really well. This is one of the type of rigs that I use. I like to use a kamikaze crawl, either a fighting frog on it. So that's something to look at anyway on your football jig. So and it doesn't really matter the size of football jig you use. I just got to stay with that same bait. Excuse me. All right, then this last thing I wanted to show was a couple of flipping jigs. And on the first flipping jig, we put a fighting frog on it, black and blue with a hematoma fighting frog. So something a little bit different that works real well, holds up real well, works real nice, gives you a real good presentation. If you like to use a flipping jig, you can do that particular line. And like I said, there's other things you can put on it. And then on the other flipping jig today, I rigged it with a Yo Mama. And the nice thing about the Yo Mama, we pinched it off a little bit to shorten it down. We'll make a nice little compact setup. And then you can do one of two things. The nice thing about this particular bait, you can leave the tails together, or you can choose to detach them and then turn it more, have it a little more movement than it would normally have. It won't be quite as subtle as like the beaver tail type look. if you leave them attached. So that's another way that you could rig. So that's a couple of trailers you can use that way. And then after we talk about all that, another one I wanted to throw in that, a lot of people have been talking about. I've been getting lots of hits from guys over the internet and all talking about they're using our BFE as a trailer. And this is definitely a flipping, but I know it probably work real well on that flipping jig. But I've also heard people talking about using the BFE on the football jig and some things like that. So it's worked out pretty nice. Something you might want to try. It's a little different. I would think, I haven't tried this personally, but just looking at it and knowing this bait, I think it would give you kind of a real subtle approach. It's not going to have a ton of action, but it'll give you a real good fall. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times that fish hits on the fall anyway, especially if you're flipping it. So something to think about there. So that's some ideas. And like I said, now I could go back through the catalog and probably give you 20 other ways to do it, but this is just a few things you can try. And I'll just run over them again. Sure. The kamikaze crawl, the double tail swim grub, the pro swimmer, the swimming crawl, the BFE, the fighting frog, or the yo mama. And that's just some of the things you can use. We've got other baits over there like the college crawl. I mean, you can just look and find and kind of do whatever you want. I don't think you're like me. I kind of have a trailer I like to use, and I kind of stick with that one all the time. So that's something to think about, but it doesn't always hurt to change. Questions. I know we got a couple questions we had held over.
Sure. I have one that came in from Jay Ryan. He's wondering, what's your favorite non-bass species to fish for?
Oh, that's a good question. I love to see the full moon in April. I love to catch shell crackers, and that's a red-eared sunfish. Southern guys call them shell crackers. They're a tremendous table fare. They eat really well, and they pull really well, and they're a lot of fun to catch on ultralight. So every April, and I know last year, Jordan, you heard me in here talking about I hadn't found any shell crackers yet. I was out hunting the beds, and it's a lot of fun to catch them when you do find them, and they eat really well. So my non-favorite type of bass is definitely a shell, what I call a good old shell cracker.
Okay, let me ask a bonus question there. How about saltwater?
Saltwater, that's a hard question, but it depends on whether you want to catch something that eats good or you want to get punished. I like to eat grouper and red snapper. Mm-hmm. If you want to get punished, try an amberjack. And so that's kind of that's kind of the ones I like to do anyway.
Gotcha. All right. Well, let me ask you one more real quick. Let's see. Let me go through these questions here. How about this one from Dakota? He's wondering,
all right, Dakota,
which plastic is working the best for you right now?
Usually at this time of the year, I've talked about this before, I use a lot of moving baits. So if I were to go out on the lake tomorrow, one of the things I would have tied on, besides obviously a rattle trap and a crankbait and that type of thing, I have an Alabama rig tied on. So I would use the 3.5 suicide shad on that Alabama rig, depending on how many arms you had. And then I would usually put one of a different color in the middle, what we would call a teaser. So I might put a shad one all around the outside, and I might put a red one down the middle. But you can use these two sizes, the 5-inch if you want to go big, or for the teaser. Some people like to make the teaser a little bigger. I usually just do them all the same size, or you could do the 3.5-inch suicide shad and run in. That's the one I like the best on my Alabama rig. So that's what I would use right now in our line of baits, with it being cold, and it's winter here, so it makes a little difference. That's kind of what I would use anyway. Do we have anything else we got today we need to talk about, or are we good to go? Well, it was kind of short but sweet, but anyway, we're going to do a show next week, and then we will be off until after the first of the year. I want to kind of go ahead and tell everybody that, because we've got a lot going on during the holidays and everything. So we'll see you next week here at the same time. We'll try to have something a little special for you.